So today we're going to be focusing on wrestling. Wrestling is a competitive sport that involves two components. It's very tactical and hands-on, and it does involve a lot of mental and physical work. The primary energy systems used up are the lactic acid system and the aerobic system, and it does require a high demand of aerobic power. So the primary muscles that are going to be used are going to be your pectoralis major and minor and your deltoids, because you do have a lot of GH flexion. So when you're in your stance, it's primarily GH flexion. Then we're also going to have your hamstrings and your glutes just as stabilizers for when you're in your stance, for lower leg stabilizers. And then your calves and your quadriceps. Calves are also a stabilizer, as well as quadriceps, but they're mainly focused on when you're getting that explosiveness and you need to tackle somebody. Today we're also going to be adding in core stabilizers that focus on trunk rotation as well. So today's goal, we are going to be focusing on muscular endurance as well as explosiveness. Yes, wrestling does contain a lot of strength, and you are going to need a lot of strength and power, but you also need that endurance and that explosiveness as well. So that's what we're going to be focusing on today. So that is going to contain, high reps, so anything above 12, 2 to 3 sets, light load, so anything below 67% of your 1RM, and then 2 to 3 sets, and low rest time, so anything below 30 seconds. Okay, so now we're going to move on to the leg press, and this is going to focus on your quads, but with the stance we're going to use, it's also going to focus on Nick's hammies. So I'm going to have Nick go ahead and get in the machine. He's going to go ahead and adjust this by pulling on this handlebar so it fits his size. Okay. And for this stance, because we're trying to focus on hamstrings more than quads, he's going to have a wider stance with his toes pointed slightly out. And once you are ready, you can go ahead and push. Okay, since we're focusing on the hamstrings, the concentric phase would be the up phase, and the eccentric phase would be the down phase at that hip hinge.
All right, we're doing tricep snaps now from here. We're gonna get a good grip here. This is simulating and actually when we're snapping to set up our takedowns. So I'm gonna be grabbing here. I'm gonna be emulating my wrestling stance, slight bend in the knees, all of my weights on my lead foot, and I'm gonna be using my whole body to snap the weight down.
Focusing on the triceps, the eccentric phase would be when Nick's elbow reaches 90 degrees, and the concentric phase would be that final position where the arm is fully extended out.
All right, this is a rowing machine. This is going to hit the mid trap, lower trap, and our rhomboids, mainly the extensors and retracting muscles. So I'm going to have him put his feet in here. I would adjust to his size. So hop on, take your feet right here. Put your foot in. Adjust it till it's snug. Same here. Nice. So I'm going to have you grab onto this. And then as you're pushing with your feet, as you're pushing your body back with your feet, you're going to turn it up just above your knee. Also, notice he has a closed pronated grip. That's the grip you'd be using for this. Perfect. That's good.
Alright, so now we're going to do the rotary torso machine. She's going to start off hitting her left extensors, and then if I wanted to switch it, you can switch it to her right, but in this case we're just going to focus on her left. I'm going to have Megan get on there, kneel on it, and go ahead and grab the handles. And you're going to go ahead and rotate as hard as you can to your left. So as Megan's doing this, notice how her upper body stays fixed and only her lower half is moving. Really giving an emphasis on the rotate. Alright, so now we're going to be doing the tricep press machine. So I'm going to have Megan sit down. I want to make sure these handles are slightly above her elbows. In this case they are. When they're turned in like this means they're hitting more tricep focus. When they're turned out, that means more chest focus. And then you're just going to go ahead and grab the handles and push down. So now I'm gonna have Megan go ahead and do it. She's just gonna grab it, making sure her elbow's straight in instead of flaring out.
The concentric phase is when the elbows are fully extended, and the eccentric phase is when the elbows come up. So now we're going to move on to the leg extension machine. This is really going to focus on the quads as a whole. So I'm going to have Dylan sit in the machine as we adjust it. You want to make sure the back of your knees are snug against this. Okay? And then he's going to go ahead and pull on this lever as the back of the chair comes up. Just make sure it fits overall. And now he's going to wrap his legs behind this bar. And it looks like that one's and now he's just going to extend his legs. The concentric phase is when Dylan's knees extend fully out and up, and the eccentric phase is when they come back down.
Okay, the selected order we went with was the leg press, into the tricep snaps, into the rows, into the core twist, into the push downs, into the leg extensions. We chose this order because it's going from multi-joint to single joint, and then we're going with a muscular endurance scheme for our wrestling athlete, and so they would pretty much just follow the muscular endurance scheme at that point. So each set would be performed at 67% or less than their 1RM for 2 to 3 sets, and then 12 or more reps in each of those sets with 30 seconds of rest in between those sets.
So the justification for each of these exercises, so for leg press, that's sport specific to wrestling, because that emulates whenever you're shooting a takedown, you're driving your foot into the ground in order to rush yourself towards your opponent. For the tricep snaps, you're working in the collar tie very often. You have to snap your opponent's head down in order to set up your takedown, so it's relevant to that particular move. Rows, where you're pulling towards yourself, there's a lot of moves like arm drags where you're using to get closer to your opponent or take your opponent's back. Core twists, that's good when it comes to scrambles, whether you failed a shot or your opponent's shot failed and you stopped it. You guys are scrambling to get a dominant position. And then push downs and leg extensions. Both are good with regards to trying to stand up from the ground when you're in ref's position. When someone's on top of you trying to hold you down, push down to push off the floor itself, and leg extensions also to push off the floor or your opponent themselves. So that's how they're sport specific to wrestling.